Magic fans, I'm Beef and welcome back to another historic Brawl gameplay video, this time featuring an Eluge, the Shoreless C deck. Eluge is a 4-mana mono blue commander with star and it has its power and toughness are each equal to the number of islands you control. And it says when Eluge enters or attacks, play flood counter on target land. It's an island in addition to its other types as long as it has a flood counter on it. Then the first instant or sorcery spell you cast each turn costs blue less the cost of each land you control with a flood counter on it. So let's go over a couple of things. First of all, and probably most importantly, this is one of, if not the only, it's definitely the only one I can think of, mana reduction card that reduces coloured mana. Mana reduction isn't that unusual, and usually we see it things like Sapphire Medallion where it reduces the generic mana to cast. This reduces the blue, and why it doesn't say it on this card, it does say it on different arts and in the Oracle. It does also reduce the generic mana cost if there's no blue left to reduce. For example, the example it gives on Oracle is if you have 4 lands with flood counters on it and you try and cast, let's say for example, a Season of Weaving, it will reduce it by 2 blue, 2 generic, and it will just cost 2 generic. The other thing to bear in mind, it says basically the first instant sorcery spell you cast each turn, it's not your turn, so you can cast you get a reduction on your turn and your opponent's turn, which obviously is great for counter spells. And then obviously its power and toughness are linked to the number of islands you've got, and the flood counters turn lands into islands. So it will turn you can turn your non-basic lands into islands to buff it up really big. There is a bug on Arena at the moment. It has been reported to Wizards by a fair few people, where if you put a flood counter on a MDFC, that's a modal double face card, such as Secret Restoration or Sink into Stupor, the land on that side, or the land on Salundi Vision, there we go, Salundi Isle. It'll also on Juari Disruption, which I haven't got in my deck anymore. While the flood counter goes on it and you get to the mana reduction from the flood counter, it doesn't turn it into an island, so it doesn't boost Eluge's power, which can be a massive problem. There was a game before I was recording where it was the first time I saw it. I basically couldn't block because I should have had a bigger creature. And in fact, in the gameplay you will see, our opponent could have chump blocked. Well, could have blocked and killed our commander. It should have been one bigger, but it wasn't. So that is something to be aware of, and it is a bit of a problem. And it kind of makes me want to take out some of these MDFCs, but for now, they're still in there. So let's quickly go through the deck. I'm not going to go through every single card because there are a lot of them, obviously, and most of them do similar things. So first up, we have a little bit of ramp. Arcane Signet, Cold Steel Heart, and Sapphire Medallion obviously reduces your cost of your spells further. Now, this big pile is all counter spells. This is how we interact. We have no removal, apart from Cyclonic Rift and River's Rebuke. So the idea is you want to counter everything our opponent has. Interesting ones to pay attention to. Mana Drain is just ridiculously powerful and can let us get out of commander a turn early. Desertion lets us basically steal a creature or artifact, so a great card to counter our opponent's commander with. Sublime Epiphany, we can do loads of things, including counter spells and counter activate abilities, and we can use every single one of them. Commandeer, we can steal a non-creature spell. Tower's End is also great for opponent's commander, and so is Wash Away. And with our commander out, these will cost less on our opponent's turn. Next up, we have a bit of protection for Eluge and a bit of flicker. So when I first bought this deck, I had a lot more flicker effects, and the idea is you get down Eluge, you can flicker it, you get that ETB trigger again, so you're going to get more reduction. But I've pared it back a bit, but we still have Shore Up, Splash Portal, which does flicker it, and it's 1 mana sorcery, so this is a great card to have when you play Eluge. You can immediately flicker it, so you'll get 2 flood counters. Then Planar Incision and Teferi's Time Twist are both instants, so we can use it to whiff our opponent's removal. Planar Incision brings it back straight away, so it wouldn't whiff a board wipe, but Teferi's Time Twist brings it back at the beginning of the next end step, so it would protect our commander from a wipe, and then obviously when it comes back in we get another flood counter. And next up we just have basically all the instants and sorceries to do other things. Most of these are draw or Seek, because we have a few alchemy cards, or look over the top 2 and pick one and all that. But we do have powerful ones like Time Warp. Consuming Tide is a bit of a mass board bounce, apart from one non-land permanent each player controls. Invoke the Winds, we can steal our opponent's artifact or creature, such as their commander. Discover the Formula is just really, really broken, and it's an alchemy card. Seek 3 non-land cards, then all non-land cards in your hand perpetually gain this spell costs 1 less to cast. If we're paying, even 4 for this, but more often say like 2 or 3, and then we're seeking loads of cards and reducing the cost of all our cards, it's just insane. Same with Season of Weaving, we can just use it to draw 5 cards. Or maybe, we don't really have any other creatures to copy. We've got some, but none worth really copying. And then we can use that the last motive to do a mass board bounce as well. Seeker Restoration, again, a great card to be able to cast cheap because we just refill our hand. Same with Dig Through Time. And then Blue Sun's Twilight lets us steal a creature, such as opponent's commander, and Zephyr lets us draw cards. And next up, I do have some other just general good stuff. Snapcaster Mage can get an instant sorcery back, or gives it flashbacks to cast it again. Swiftfoot Boots protects our commander and gives it haste, which, being able to get Eluge down and attacking on the same turn gets us those extra flood counters. Tireless Anger is another alchemy card. When an island ETBs under our control, we can draft a card from its spellbook, which are basically a lot of big creatures. Harbinger of the Sea turns all non-basic lands into islands, which will potentially buff our Eluge if we have non-basic islands in play. Haughty Djinn just is a great card, reduces the cost of our instant sorcery spells, and it gets really big. And then 2 Planeswalker Narset stops our opponent drawing more than 1, and then we can go digging for non-creature, non-land cards. And Teferi is an extra way to draw cards, get an extra big body that grows when we draw cards. And then if we get to that ultimate, which is doable with the amount of card draw we have, it can basically... we should just shuffle our entire board into our opponent's deck, apart from 1 card. Mana base is obviously mono blue, so mostly islands. We do have a few of the fetch lands, and that is purely for Mystic Sanctuary. Mystic Sanctuary is an island, so it can be fetched up by Flooded Strand, Misty Rainforest, all those. And basically, enters tapped unless we control 3 or more other islands. But if it does end untapped, we may put a instant or sorcery card from our graveyard on top of our library. So if we want to get back a counter spell or a big spell, we can search up the Sanctuary with one of our fetch lands. And obviously, the good thing about things like Otawara and Cavern of Souls and Reliquary Tower is we can put a flood counter on them, turn them into islands, buff our Eluge, and make sure they just tap for blue. And we can even do that with our fetch lands. If we play a fetch land, attack with Eluge, then we can put a flood counter on it, and now we don't need to crack it to save that 1 life. So that's the deck. It is mono blue, so it can be very annoying to play against. I am not a control mage by any means, but I've always really liked big creatures, especially like sea serpents. It's not thalassophobia, it's a bit thalassa interest, I suppose. Although it's interesting that Eluge is a fish and not a Leviathan or Serpent or anything like that. I hope you'll enjoy it. It's a great deck to play with a pretty good win rate, which I'll get to in the wrap up. But for now, I'll see you all in the gameplay. We're on the draw with not the best hand. I think we need another island. Well, that can counter the Crawl Claw. We have to find... We found our land. At least we can counter the Crawl Claw now. They can put the boots on the bird if they want. Well, let's swing in. Yep, that'll do it. Oh, Maha. One of my favourite decks. Won the draw, a couple of counter spells. Cavern of Souls won't really do much. Obviously, we do need more land for Eluge. But we might be able to mana drain something. Which means I'll play the islands first. Obviously, it's important to keep their commander off the battlefield. They did mull to 6. Blue Sun's Twilight might be able to steal Maha. Although its ward is a bit annoying. Well, they're thinking about something. Put this on fish. This will help us be able to cast Eluge. And we can shore up for free if we need to. But if I have another one, we might be in trouble. Because of our lack of lands. Land, please. There we go. At least we can... Cold Steel Heart. Oh, it doesn't matter, obviously. The Cavern of Souls is blue. And keep up Counterspell. Hopefully they go for their commander. Well, what we can do is we can... Oh no, Mystic Sanctuary puts it on top. But we can get a Mystic Sanctuary, get a Mana Drain. See if we can find a land. Secret Restoration we'll have to do. They knew it was coming. And now we have... No, I think I'll just waste that too. Again, this should be a 6/6 because Cavern of Souls is an island, Mystic Sanctuary is an island. It's not made Seagate Reborn an island. Is it because it doesn't see it as a land? Opponent may have had enough. Yeah, that's a bug. I'll have to report it. Da da da. Four, 5. Is that last one, do we reckon? Let's just go big. Counter target spell. Don't need a copy. And there's the Jinn. Oh, I probably should play the Otawara. And we'll keep up. Well, could have Haughty Jinned and Archmage's Charm. Yeah, that bug is... It happened in an earlier game with Jwari Disruption / Jwari Ruins, that it didn't count as an island with the flood counter on it, so it didn't grow my Eluge. On the draw with a very, very slow hand. So I think this is a mulligan. Well, this is better. Don't necessarily need more land. Yep, they're islands. I'm actually going to cast Discover the Formula. We will discard a island. If they play Braids again, we can counter it. In fact, we can put it onto the battlefield with Desertion. Well, let's Thirst. Well, now we can keep up Counterspell. Although if they do that before the counter goes on the land, it's a bit annoying. We will discard a Dig Through Time. Put this on fish. We will put the Harbinger away. Okie dokie. I'm going to get down the Pilgrim.
Past is a puzzle, and I'm going to solve it. Knowledge.
Let's swing in. And I might as well draw 2. Actually, no, I'm going to keep it up. Fine. They'll tack down to Fairy. I assume then they're playing their Felsinger.
Time travel is harder than it looks.
Well, let's attack. And we will time warp. And we might as well draw 2. This should allow us to and then we will invoke the winds, seal in their commander. Cool, sack a land that doesn't have a counter on it. Could have cast Counterspell. Mystical Dispute would have done it as well. So yeah, we had a few options, and then next turn we could have got in for 9, 10. So we had an island to play, and a Nykthos. We're on the draw with not a great hand. I think this is a mulligan. This is better. We've got some counter spells. We'd like another land for Mystic Sanctuary. Oh, this is the arena, the alchemy version. There is another slime foot, I think. Well, that's a problem. Take that, ramp. Would like more lands, please. Oh, we're in trouble because Mythweaver Pot is just broken. We're on the play. Hopefully we can draw some extra lands with Brainstorm. And maybe shuffle them away with the Rainforest. We'll put one land away. And the Impulse. But I would like to draw that land. In fact, I'd like to draw the Impulse as well. An Impulse at the end of their turn. I'm not going to counter Opt. But I will counter Spelunking. And let's Impulse. I think I take Discover the Formula. Put this on Fish. And we'll make the Cavern of Souls an island. They're going to be able to ramp. Well, we can play the Rainforest. Let's just fetch an island. There's nothing in a graveyard I particularly need. Let's swing in. And let's discover the formula. Tail's End can counter their commander, so that's good. And I can either flicker my Eluge. I timed that wrong because I was going to come back at the end of my turn. Well, I think I just draw a bundle of cards. And I believe I can Desertion for 2. So if I play the commander again, I can steal it. Yeah, we flicker our commander. It whiffs their Invoke the Winds. We get to put another flood counter. And then, yeah, we can Invoke the Winds. Maybe they're Azusa, but we don't really need it. We still have a couple of mana up for... We could have memory lapped something or swan songed it. Or even washed away their commander again. Ooh, a Tali. Counter spells are going to be very useful. I think this is a mulligan. Well, this is not great. We can sink into Stewport. Sure. Wow, they have ramped all the way. You can have a bird, but that's it. Okay, no lands is problematic. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is getting a bit ridiculous. Hey, a land. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they are 2 away from being able to play Atali. My measly 1-1. Oh, I'm concerned that Soporific Springs will be bugged. It is bugged. But they've taken it. I'm going to cast this because it's free. I need lands. Well, we managed to do that with only 3 lands, and they ramped pretty hard. We would have absorbed energy up next turn, and we would have attacked and put another flood counter on our island. So absorb energy would have been free, and hopefully by drawing a card we would have hit a land. They should have blocked when I attacked with the 2-2, but the fact that it's bugged and put in the flood counter on modal double face cards doesn't turn them into islands is a bit of an issue. Well, this is a pretty good hand. We can Saloon Division as a land. Hopefully we draw some more early interaction. But what we can do is Eluge and then the same turn Splash Portal it. And in fact we do have a counter up if we need it. Oh, I think they've got a lightning strike. Again, the bug not turning Salundi Isle into an island. That's a bit of a problem. I will take 4. Counterspell is very, very good. think I will just... Oh, we can keep up counter spell for when they play. Oh, we're just going to hit in. Alright, well, let's attack. We have 3, we have 6. We have 2 down there. Well, let's just time warp then. Yeah, I think they saw the writing on the wall. Hello Magic fans and welcome back to the wrap up. So we played 10 games in total with an 80% win rate, which is obviously really, really good. Although a couple of those wins were our opponents scooping after 20 or so seconds. So, you know, take that with a pinch of salt. Like most mono blue decks, you have the counter spells. It's a very, very powerful deck. But obviously if your opponent manages to get some early threats onto the board, it can prove troublesome, but obviously having a big old commander in Eluge, which can easily get up to a 6/6 or 7/7, while you're casting spells for free, can deal with a lot of aggro. It's a shame about the bug, as I said in the deck check, and you would have seen some of the videos. If you put a flood counter on an MDFC, like the land side of Seagate Restoration and Saloon Division, and sink into Stupor, while you get the mana reduction bonus from having a flood counter, land with a flood counter on it, it doesn't turn it into an island, so it doesn't increase your commander stats. And there was a game where I attacked, I think, with a 3/3, put the flood counter onto one of the MDFCs, and at that point I knew it was a bug, but I didn't know it was all lands, hoping to go to a 4/4, and it didn't, and our opponent could have double blocked and killed our commander, at which point I think we would have lost, but they didn't, and then we won. So once that gets fixed, I think there'll be an even more powerful deck, but a really fun deck to play. I'm not usually a control mage. I don't really like playing against it, and therefore I don't really like playing it, but it is quite fun just countering anything and just getting free spells. When I first built the deck, I did go with a more flicker based theme to try and get the ETB triggers repeatedly. I had like roaming thrown in there as well, double up triggers, and then a lot more bigger spells like mass manipulation I do as well. I can, generate a load of mana reduction, and I can steal their entire board, and it didn't quite work. There's a fine line between setup and finisher, and I think in this deck you need to go more setup. You need to be able to get that value by playing multiple spells, by getting obviously free drawing into a big finisher, or something like repeated counter spells, and that's what the final deck did. So a really powerful deck. Had a great time playing it. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in my next video.